Allium ursinum! Allium ursinum! Allium ursinum! The wild garlic, or Allium ursinum. With its sulfur-containing compounds and its high amount of vitamin C, the wild garlic is a really precious wild herb and medicinal plant for springtime. And apart from that, the wild garlic is among the tastiest wild herbs we can find out here in nature. So as usual, we will have a look at its compounds. We will learn how to determine the wild garlic and how to exclude mistakes of confusion. We will get to know its natural habitat. And in the end of this video, we will know how not only we, but also nature can benefit from this precious plant. So let me borrow your precious time. Join me on a journey for all of our senses and let's get freaky about it. So first things first, of course, we have to be really careful, because if there is wild garlic, then it comes in carpets. And we have to be really careful that we don't destroy those little precious plants. Another thing you should bear in mind, be aware of ticks, because it's springtime. So yeah, about the time for the ticks to crawl out of their holes and get on you. If you're interested, I will probably have already a video about a certain plant which can help us with ticks. The wild garlic is starting to sprout early in the year, between February and March. It is part of the leek family, similarly to the onion or the cultivated garlic we usually use within our kitchens. The usage of wild garlic by humans as a vegetable, spice and medicinal plant has a long tradition. Now we're gonna have a closer look at why wild garlic was so gladly used in human history. So let's have a look at the compounds of wild garlic. We got primarily vitamin C, I mentioned it already. We have like 2 or 3 times the amount which we could find in lemons or oranges, but also just half of the amount which we could find in stinging nettles. There are also several B vitamins, as well as beta-carotene, which is a pre-vitamin to vitamin A. Our body is converting a certain... Oh, look at this. Oh, look at this. 2 of those. I got some pets. 3 of those? No, just 2 of those. Look at this. I got them. I'm just here to harvest some ticks for you. 2 ticks counter. There are certain B vitamins. There's beta-carotene, which our body is converting to a certain amount into vitamin A. There are etheric oils. There's chlorophyll. Yeah, and we got certain minerals in the wild garlic. First of all, calcium. We got about a third less than we could find in cow milk or plant-enriched milk. We got potassium and iron. And there are the really healthy polyphenols and flavonoids like quercetin or camphorol, and also the sulfur-containing compounds I was speaking earlier of. I will just put an overlay here where you can see the specific compounds of the wild garlic and its effect. Yeah, there might be also already a video about the most common compounds and substances found in plants on my channel. So if it's here, I will link it. Yeah, let's get back to the sulfur-containing compounds, which makes not only wild garlic, but every plant in the leek family really special. There's first of all the alliin, which in combination with the alliinase, which is an enzyme, creates a new substance which is called the allicin. And this allicin is said to be really potent, really strong antioxidant and has antibiotic effects. Yeah, it's working against bacteria, certain kinds of viruses, fungi and parasites. And the parasites brings me to a really interesting point, because often when you speak about wild garlic, you also hear about the fox tapeworm. You know, that's a parasite usually inhibited by the fox. And yeah, the fox could contaminate wild garlic with those, with the eggs of the fox tapeworm. And I was just thinking, if the wild garlic is anti-parasitic, if that's the right word, if it's working against parasites, is it also possible that while eating the wild garlic with fox tapeworm eggs on it, is it actually counteracting the parasite? So far, I couldn't find any studies on that. If you're a biologist or pharmacologist or something and and you're looking for an interesting topic to do some research on, I think that's definitely one. Yeah, this channel here is a platform to exchange knowledge. So therefore, if you know better about the wild garlic, if you have additional sources, if you do research on it, then please let us know about your insights. Oh yeah, and so sulfur-containing compounds are also known to bind certain kind of metals, especially heavy metals. Therefore, the plants of the leek family are gladly used to get rid of heavy metals or other toxins. The sulfur-containing compounds also show some potential in treating different kind of cancer. Yeah, a few more words to the compounds here. An article published in 2016 in the Journal of Food Processing and Preservation found out that the highest phenolic content and therefore antioxidant capacity is found at full ripeness stage. In my view, that means the flowering. Additionally, they found that the antioxidant content is highest in the leaves. Another note to the sulfur-containing compound allicin: it is produced as soon as the plant gets damaged. Allicin is accordingly protecting the plant and inhibiting microbes to enter and harm the plant. It is also pretty volatile, therefore actually best to consume wild garlic raw. But eating it raw comes with possible risks we will talk about later on. So that means, where can we apply the wild garlic? I repeat myself, it's antibiotic. Therefore, we can use it to sterilize or disinfect wounds. Also, it's promoting the wound healing. We can use it to treat certain kind of illnesses like cold, fever, and especially illnesses regarding the lungs. We can apply the wild garlic on insect bites or itchy locations. It's definitely reducing the itchiness. I just use it on a tick bite, actually, and it is working. Oh yeah, it's also said to be effective against hair fall and dandruff. I have to check that, because, I don't have hair fall, but I have a problem with dandruff. It's promoting the digestion, so if you get problems with your digestion, definitely one field where you can apply the wild garlic. It's reducing blood clotting and enhancing blood flow. Therefore, it's also good prevention for arteriosclerosis and thrombosis. The wild garlic is good for our heart, for our gut, and for our whole blood system. I mentioned already the blood pressure reducing effect of the wild garlic, so you might use it if you have problems with high blood pressure. Then also the cleansing effect, not only on our blood but on our whole body. So we could use the wild garlic to give our body a little treatment here to get rid of toxins and heavy metals. Yeah, that's all. And if that's not stunning, I don't know what is. So, the natural habitat of the wild garlic. As you can see, we're currently located in a forest. Yeah, the wild garlic prefers deciduous and mixed forest, like this one here. As you can see, we got some young beech trees here. We got spruces. We got a hazelnut, spruce, beech tree. Here behind us, a beech tree and an elm tree. Yeah, so perfect example for mixed forest. Yeah, the wild garlic prefers shady places like here in the forest. You will rarely see them on meadows or something, even though there are some examples. But yeah, the soil should be humid, chalky, and nutritious. And it's reversely, the wild garlic is reversely an indicator for those properties. Yep. If we have a look at the bigger picture, you can find wild garlic in many places in Europe, and it's extending up to Asia. In Central Europe it is pretty scattered, but if there is a population, wild garlic is usually coming in masses. Even though wild garlic prefers forests, there are rare occurrences of it on meadows at the border to forests. The whole thing about shady places, I think, might be a false observation, because as you can see, the wild garlic is getting a lot of sun and can cope with it pretty well. The plants I've seen so far, which were fully exposed to the sun for half of the day, didn't show any negative impacts because of that much sunlight. Therefore, my theory is, there's probably a reason for the wild garlic to sprout that early in the year when there are almost no leaves on the trees surrounding it. which is to get a lot of sunlight for photosynthesis. In my view, the fact that it's mostly to find within forests might be more due to its softness and the factor of protection. Protection against wind, heavy rain or hail. Other factors for the preference of forests are for sure the water retention property of a forest and maybe symbiosis with deciduous trees and or their fungi. Short overview of the wild garlic based on this illustration. The root, as you can see, looks pretty much like an onion. Wild garlic is a perennial plant, therefore you can find and harvest the root all year long, but remember, consuming the root kills the plant. As mentioned earlier, the wild garlic starts to sprout in late February, early March, and has usually 2 leaves coming out of the root. The leaves have separate stems. That means there's just 1 leaf per stem. This is important for later when we have a look at the dangers of confusion. The stem itself is turning into a rib and is proceeding over the whole backside of the leaf. We got elliptical lens-shaped leaves with a smooth leaf margin. The upside is shiny, the downside is dull. And another characteristic is that the leaves are hanging down. Let's have a look at the flower. Somewhere in April the flower buds emerge, and a bit later, between April and June, the inflorescence is presenting itself as an umbel with up to 30 single flowers. The flowers are white and symmetrical, consisting of 6 lens-shaped petals forming a star. Together with the flower, the green seed pods are developing, usually containing 3 seeds. As long as the seed pods are green, they are raw and edible. Once they turn black, the seeds are ripe and ready to cultivate. Now let's go outside and let's determine the wild garlic with all the senses. So here, we got to a zone where obviously nature is not protected. Yeah, it's not a nature protective zone here, and therefore we are able to profit from all of this wild garlic here. As you can see, wild garlic, if it's growing, then it's coming in carpets. Yeah, and I want to show you something, because I mentioned that harvesting garlic is a journey for all of senses. So we start with seeing. So yeah, if you have a look at the wild garlic, you see here young leaves, you see really big leaves, and each leaf or each stem got 1 leaf. Compared to the lily of the valley, there you have 2 leaves on a stem. And the other one, the autumn crocus, which is also really poisonous, mystic of confusion, you got, there's a rosette, and there all the leaves are coming out. But here, you got 1 stem, 1 leaf. The stem is going over the whole leaf on the back side. Yep. And you see, the downside is dull, the upside is shiny. We got a plain leaf, a lens-shaped, elliptical, and here you can see the little flower buds. There, the flower is coming out anytime soon. So I want to show you the bulb. Just dug a little bit here. There we have it. What a small baby here. I mean, of course, that's just a small leaf, small plant. But as you can see, 1 onion, 1 bulb for a leaf. Maybe there are even coming more leaves out of it. It's pretty dry here, but I will just put it back. Oh yeah, and the second sense, the sense of feeling, you can feel that the wild garlic is pretty soft and tender, whereas the lily of the valley and the autumn crocus are both pretty fleshy and leathery. So, and once you've harvested those leaves, make sure that it's not contaminated with anything. Then we can go for the third sense, which is the sense of smelling. You rub those leaves between your hands, getting pretty easy. See, pretty wet. And you can smell the specific leek smell. Yep. Then we can go over to the fourth sense, which is a sense of taste. Yep. We come. Really tasty. We come to the fourth sense, which is the sense of hearing. So, if we have a closer look, here you see this middle rib on the backside. And if you bend the leaf over, it will make such a sound. Yeah, the more down you go, the louder it will be. So, and this cracking you won't hear with Lily of the Valley or with the autumn crocus. Yeah, I forgot to mention the sense of equilibrium, balance, because you will need it if you don't want to destroy the whole population here. Yeah, as I told you, journey for all of our senses. It's crazy. Yeah, and it's so helpful to be mindful while harvesting it, not only to play with all your senses, but also to make sure that you don't collect the wrong thing. I wouldn't only recommend, but it's also really important to use all of your senses while harvesting the wild garlic, since it still often comes to poisonous mistakes of confusion. But I promise to you, once we're done with this video and you've harvested wild garlic yourself for the first time, it's impossible to mistake it with something else. As long as you're not getting greedy, as long as you're not trying to speed up the harvesting process, and as long as you stay mindful. In addition to the kind of similar looking plants, the wild garlic is growing close to the ground, which leaves a possibility of contamination with excrements of animals and humans. An often mentioned danger is the fox tapeworm, which is said to be not or just hardly visible for the human eye. An infection can get pretty serious, but luckily the chance to infect is rather low. The cases of fox tapeworm are rare but might increase if the population of foxes or the number of humans eating wild herbs is increasing. So there is a possibility to infect yourself with a fox tapeworm not only while getting wild garlic, and I don't want to play it down, but the possibility is, as mentioned, rather low. Because, first of all, the fox has to be infected. Here you can see the prevalence of the fox tapeworm worldwide. In Europe, it is mainly found in northern Switzerland, eastern France, western Austria, and southern Germany. Second, the fox must contaminate exactly the leaf you are taking. Usually, the fox is leaving its excrements on elevated places like on dead tree stumps or stones. But the eggs of the fox tapeworm can also stick to its fur, so yeah, that means that it's probably already enough if the fox is swiping the plants with its fur. Anyway, third point, most infections will be fought successfully by the human immune system, so that the tapeworm is neutralized before it's reaching the next stadium. People with a weakened immune system should take extra care, of course. And the fourth point, to be on the really safe side, hygiene is important. Washing the herbs thoroughly and heating the white garlic up over 60 degrees Celsius is proven to be effective. Also, ultraviolet radiation of the sun, especially the UVB radiation, is known to be deleterious and can act against bacteria, viruses, parasites, and might be effective to kill parasites like the fox tapeworm. Here you get an overview of the specific components of the wild garlic. The icons show if it's edible or not, and if it's used primarily as a medicinal herb with preventive character or as medicine with therapeutic character. On the right side of each quadrant you will also see the best season to harvest the specific component. All parts of the wild garlic are edible, best to eat them fresh, but don't forget the hygiene. The leaves can be eaten directly raw or in a salad. They can be used as a spice in all kinds of dishes. Furthermore, you can craft a wild garlic pesto, butter, oil or salt out of it. I will show you directly afterwards how to make your own wild garlic salt. The root of the wild garlic can be used similarly to onions and cultivated garlic. Raw seeds can be used for wild garlic oil, and the mature black seeds can be dried and ground for garlic pepper. There are many more recipes out there, just have a look. First of all, wash the wild garlic leaves thoroughly, then spread them on a sheet or a tray so that they can dry. Best to use the energy of the sun for this. The leaves don't have to be totally dried out, it's just important to get rid of the water. You could also take a towel to get rid of the water. As soon as the leaves are dry, we can start cutting them roughly. Once we cut the leaves, we will put them together with the salt of our choice into a container and mash it with a hand blender, or we put both directly in a blender and mash it there. We want to mash this mixture really thoroughly. Once we get a nice paste, we start spreading it on a paper. Definitely not the best choice I'm taking here, better to have some baking paper ready. You have to take what you got, huh? We try to apply a layer which is as thin as possible, so that the drying process is faster. Depending on what method you use, the drying process can take 5 hours in the oven at 50 degrees Celsius, or up to 2 or 3 days if you air dry or sun dry the paste. As soon as the paste is totally dry, we can start scraping off the paste from the sheet. As you can see, the result is still pretty rough. So therefore, we're gonna blend it one more time, or we use a mortar and grind it really fine. And here we have it, our wild garlic salt. Salt actually has a long tradition in human history to preserve different kind of foods. Here the salt is depriving the water and the humidity of the food, and therefore the chance for microbes to survive in such a product is drastically reduced. And in addition, with the antimicrobial properties of the wild garlic, this product should serve you for a long time. Enjoy! As mentioned earlier, if you once harvested the wild garlic yourself, there is no chance to mistake it with the here mentioned plants as long as you stay mindful. Probably the highest likeliness to confuse with wild garlic has the lily of the valley. The lily of the valley is toxic in all its parts, especially the flower and fruits. The consumption can lead to diarrhea and vomiting, as well as to dysrhythmia of the heart. High amounts of the lily of the valley can be fatal. Despite its toxicity, extracts of the lily of the valley, namely the glycoside convalatoxin, are used in small dosages as a medication for light heart insufficiencies. How can we now differentiate the wild garlic from this plant? The danger of confusion lies in the early stages of this plant, when the leaves are not fully developed. Once the flower has started, it's much better to differentiate. Usually, the wild garlic is starting to sprout a bit earlier than the lily of the valley, but there are of course exceptions to the rule. They can both grow next to each other, as we can see here. So let's have a closer look at the leaves. The lily of the valley got 2 to 3 leaves per stem. We learned that the leaves of the wild garlic got separate stems. In comparison to the leaves of the wild garlic, the leaves of the lily of the valley are standing upright, they are shiny on both sides, the shape of the leaf is slightly wider, and the leaves are not nearly as soft as those of the wild garlic. If you bend the leaves over, you won't hear the cracking we heard with the wild garlic leaves. Of course, the leaves of the lily of the valley got no rib which could crack. Apart from that, smell and taste are not garlic alike. You see, there are several characteristics which make it easy to exclude this danger of confusion. Let's get to the autumn crocus. This one is even more toxic than the lily of the valley. It is said that consuming 3 to 4 leaves can be fatal already. Everything starts with gastrointestinal complaints. Afterwards, there will be no symptoms for a few days, and then the multiple organs will stop to function. Not a nice death, I think. So better to know what you're gathering. Similarly to the lily of the valley, despite its high toxicity, the autumn crocus has been used for several years as a medicine. Small dosages of the toxic compound colchicine were found to be helpful in treating gout. The colchicine also saw increasing interest during the corona pandemic, as different studies stated the effectiveness of it in treating COVID. Opposite to the wild garlic, the autumn crocus prefers meadows and is rarely seen in forests. The leaves of the autumn crocus are arising from a single rosette. In comparison to the leaves of the wild garlic, the leaves of the autumn crocus are similarly to the lily of the valley standing upright, they are shiny on both sides, and the leaves are not nearly as soft as those of wild garlic. The shape of the leaves is longer, and it also got no rib on the leaves which could crack when you bend them over. Smell and taste are also not garlic alike. So we changed the spot. I just wanted to show you something. There is this little plant here, the arum, which is often mentioned as a possible mystic of confusion to the wild garlic. I mean, I don't know. What do you think? I mean, maybe... Don't know what this is. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's the arum. Maybe when it's, when it's really, really young, then there might be a chance to mistake it with a wild garlic. But here you can see arrow-shaped leaf. You got those things down there, and backside is shiny and patterned, whereas the wild garlic, as you can see, lens-shaped leaf. You got elliptical leaf, you got the stem, the rib here, which is going over the whole leaf, and on the downside it's dull, opposite shiny. As you can see, possible mistakes can only happen in a really early stage. So to be on the safe side, wait a little bit till the leaves are more developed. So I think now you are good to go harvesting wild garlic yourself. Generally speaking, the wild garlic is usually just protected in nature conservation zones. Still, it is not allowed and should be common sense not to harvest wild garlic for commercial reasons unless it's growing on your own property. The leaves of the wild garlic are just interesting for some mice, humans and bears. There are several animals for which the wild garlic is even toxic, for example cats and dogs. The sulfur-containing compounds are serving as an eating protection against insects, therefore even insects are not really glad to eat a wild garlic. Just when the wild garlic is beginning to flower, which is about April-May, it's a welcome food source for bees and butterflies. For the sake of nature and the health of the individual plant and the wild garlic population, only gather small amounts, maximum 1 to 2 leaves per bush, and don't get greedy. There have been occasions of people who broke up the soil in the forest in a relatively large scale to harvest whole populations of the wild garlic. Just recently the police in Germany caught 6 people who were stealing wild garlic bulbs in a big amount. So please stay humble yourself, and if you're about to notice such a crime against nature, then please report it. We come to the end of this video, and if you made it until here, I think you will see the wild garlic now in a different light when you encounter it the next time. And I hope you learned 1 or 2 new things, and I really hope that you find a way to integrate this special plant into your life. So nothing more to add, but let's give Mother Nature back the value it deserves. Let's maintain the ancient wisdom. And stay grounded, don't forget your roots, and stay freaky. Bye bye. Oh yeah, I almost forgot, you can also check out this video here about the willow, which can help us with a certain kind of paints. And you can also check out the whole channel. There are videos about certain plants. There's some outdoor adventures. Check it out, and you know what you have to do.